this is sticking up. This is fine up. There's a very confident grower in South Georgia who's the president of the Nurse Society, and he takes it all. Works for him. But he's got perfect conditions. And he's young and well trained, and neither of us. And so ideally you put, let's say you have a bamboo and you want more of it, or you know somebody that has it, and you put 2 or 3 of these in a container. You got to get this node. That's where the rest of that comes. Well below the soil. And that's an easy mistake to make. I've learned that too many times. Shove it way down in there. It would help a little bit if you put some roots on it. I get hormone-free, which is very high concentration of IV, some hormone. Much stronger once you get the soils. And then you put this in strong light, not full sun, and within a couple of weeks you should see some growth. In a couple of months, you're going to have roots there. If you wait about 5-6 months, which is what I do, you see very strong growth, new shoots coming up, and you got a lot of bamboo. I do it all the time. There's another way to do it. Let's pretend this is big. You have access to this, and you really want it. And you want it along that line there. So if you take this and notice that every node, it rotates 180 degrees. On this one, it's down. I'm going to call it up. This one, I'm going to prune clean. And this is up again, kind of. Let's pretend these are real big. This one. Oh, this is fun. Let's assume that this is something bigger. So you lay this down on the ground, and I pruned off every other node because I want this to be in contact with the ground, and if I had branches sticking down, it'd be pretty hard to do that. That's the only reason I do that. I take off all the foliage because the plant has no roots. It will get. And this should be sticking up, and this should be filled up. Anyway, then you pour some leaves or pine straw or mulch or crud or whatever you got around. And this is kind of in contact with soil, and be best if you made a little bit of soil there. Take a little trench, you don't have to. And now you've got this long line of mulch. And maybe a branch or two sticking up. I'll show you that to you in 3 different parts of the property. You will be convinced that won't work. Trust me, it does work. That will take about 2-3 months, and all of a sudden, whoa, look at that. Whoa! And now you have a line. And so when I cut this down, if I wanted that, I would take 2 or 3 fork canes, assuming you have a lot to work with, and prune it up like that. And then I'd overlap them 50% and slow and sawing down the line, and throw a lot of mulch here. I'm in operations, so I'll do that. You're going to get a lot of bamboo, so you better like it. It's a very easy way to do it. And you need to keep it damp. So if you do that, and the ideal time would be February, March, April, May. Duke Power came along, and you'll see that up here. And they decided that this one bamboo species to get up in the transition lines to the rockland. And the person I used to talk to in North Carolina quit or something like that. So they wouldn't listen to me. They cut it down. And I had a lot of canes. And so I just took them up there and got rid of some dwarf viburnum that were about 35 feet tall. I didn't plant them. And I got a stump grinder and ground it up. And so I had the application saw, I just laid it down in there. And I got about 80, 90 feet of a new fence. Cheapest fence you'll ever get. And around my house, I have some very tall bamboos growing on purpose because I want to shade my wall. Lower the power bill. Helps the world too. I also have erect bamboos fairly close to the house as a windbreak. It's about as good a windbreak as you're going to get. If you have some type of structure, a wall or something like that, 5 times out the height of your windbreak is how far you're going to get wind reduction. I think 5 times out you're going to get very little, maybe halfway out it's still halfway decent. If it's a solid wall, I don't know where you get such a thing, then you get turbulence after the leeward side of the wall, and that's not good. A tree, a bush, a bamboo, something that lets a little bit through is your superior windbreak. And I have insurance and I've got a good roof, but I don't want to challenge my roof or collect on insurance. So that's a good windbreak in this area. I especially like the, instead of the sun stopping at 6 o'clock, now it stops at 2. That's a big difference.
What does the bamboo do during the hurricane? The hydrants?
They bend, come back, bend and come back, bend and come back. Pine trees snap right off. Sweet gums, give it a dirty look and it'll fall off. I didn't plant the sweet gums, but after 4 years, I wanted to leave it. That's good. That sycamore up front is a very strong sucker. And the live oaks are good, but a state forester came around in 2000 when we were in a drought, and he knew I was a stick garden and stuff, so we were just talking. He said, up at the corner of the house, he said, "Mr. Johnson, that's a laurel oak." I said, "I didn't know what laurel oak." I said, "Well, thanks for telling me." And he says, "No, that's a laurel oak." I said, "If you don't take that down," it was huge. I love that tree. Anyway, with the great expense, I took it down. I needed cherry pickers to do it. Yeah, and the inside of that thing was, you're going to collect that for insurance, because it was seeping, and he showed me stuff, and I said, "Well, if you say so." I didn't understand. It was rotting. They rot on the inside. You go along some pasture and you see some tree that was sprawled out. I would assume it's a laurel oak. Again, I'm not an expert on it, but he was. And I thought, well, a bamboo, I'm not going to do that. Furthermore, if that laurel oak, if the branches are like this, fell on my roof, I hope the dogs and me were gone. But I prevented that big crash. Bamboo, bend, come back, bend, and come back. And if a bamboo is too close to your house, well, you're planting around bamboo. Anyway, it's not that big. It's hollow on the inside. And they're very, very strong curved hollows. Stronger than steel. The steel is very heavy and stiff and so forth. Each give, they come back, give, come back. Is it time for a tour? Very often don't have a good internal calculator. They have a lot of energy, it's time to grow, let's grow, and they'll put up more growth than they can sustain, almost always. And some don't make it. Here's one that was actually pretty big and it didn't make it. If you're going to care for a bamboo, that would be when it's growing, that would be the time to give it a little extra fertilizer. I normally recommend a low-cost, slow-release turf fertilizer. Do not get weed and feed unless you want an early death. I myself go to Helena Chemicals down south of Dade City and get it by the truckload, and I get a 17, 4, 10, 6 month slow release for a lot of my trees. I put that in my pots, because my pots from Hildreth Landscape, that's their soil mix, has nothing in it except peat moss and bark and stuff like that. So I have to do some. Yeah, all the species of clumping bamboo I would propagate the same way. Species, some are easier and some aren't, and some are difficult. And that has to do with supply-demand dictates the bamboo price. I have a blue bamboo down here, which is right here, and if I don't put some perlite in the potting mix, the roots get too wet, and I tend to overwater, and they rot out. Beautiful bamboo in the ground, but yeah, the different bamboos have different characteristics. Now, a running bamboo, it's altogether different. If you want a running bamboo, you just dig it up. The comb cutting propagation will not work with that, as best I understand it. The runners put up their growth much sooner. They put up in February, March, April. The clumpers usually start much later, about late spring into summer, into fall. And this is going to be about 25% bigger for me than it would be for you. This is pretty much straight up and down growth. On a lot of bamboos, especially as they get bigger, the branching and foliage rises up. Most of the growth of a bamboo is going to happen in the first 2 years. If you get it established, the second year it's going to really grow. Third and fourth year, fifth years will get a little bigger, a little taller, a little thicker, but most of the growth happens in the first 2 years, at least it does here. On this one, the branching rises up to what you see. This is one cane 10 years ago. Over there is one cane, well, 5 pots 5 years ago. Pretty good screen, ginger, and they try and plant a lot of different things for the critters. Not the deer, deer. I'm trying to be good to the pollinators because they do things that. Anyway, this is Bambu's Textilis RG Dwarf. Here's RG Dwarf again. The power company, they come down here with helicopters and look, and then they mark it and say you gotta visit that guy and cut down stuff. Yeah, they do that every 3-4 years. Well, this was at least like that, and I told them all the technical guys is it can't get up there, it doesn't have the chance to do it. Well, I lost that argument. So they cut it down. And I'll show you up front where this is forming a new hedge. So you think, well, and if you saw this in February, you'd say, that's dead. Well, it ain't dead now. And what did I do? Well, I was working on that shed, and then I was shopping, I read books, I did nothing. And I plan to actually go at it with a Sawzall, and when it's cooler and just dig it out and put it in. But then again, I have a lot of plans. That's good, I hope you do that. Oh, and if I wanted to make that into a hedge, you can see that, you know, I could just, with a hedge trimmer and stuff, I could make myself one. And if you look at this one, it's not a bad screen. But you can see through it, and if there was headlights you didn't like or something, you know, sometimes out of sight, out of mind is better. This one, if I were to start making this into a hedge, and I'm almost thinking of doing that, you couldn't see through it at all because of that thing where when you prune something off, it just, here, if I prune this, it'll never get taller, that one, but it'll get bushier. And that's what's going on with this. It's just getting very bushy. Now, if you stop making the hedge and doing the hedge trimming activity, the next surge of growth is not going to know what you did, and it's going to be taller. And then the next one's going to be taller, and you'll revert back to what it wants to be. So you have to continue that process. This bamboo we got in the corner here is, the corner's been there about 9-10 years. This over here has been here about 3 years. One over here has been there about 2 years. This is our best seller. It's called Golden Goddess because it arches, it's bushy. Some people snort and don't like it at all. That's fine, I don't care. It's a very good screen, and that's almost what most people want, to not see something. And good fences make good neighbors, and this is a cheap, tall, forever fence. A fence that you have put in is going to be expensive, and in about some years it's going to blow over or blow away or not look so good. If you like the looks of that, well, it's just always going to be that way. What you want to do at the start is give it soil. This is my fern pile, and usually when I light the match, the wind automatically goes strongly in that direction and singes that, but it's coming back. Sorry. The last number in the fertilizer bag is that. I'll take that and throw it around. It helps root growth. I wouldn't put a wheelbarrow at one plant, that'd be too much, but I just fling it around. Seems to work. Over here is blue bamboo. Bambusa chungai.
Beautiful.
That is one cane 15 years ago, I think. Won't be quite that big for you. Now it's a white powder, on the green cane. And if I were to go along with a power washer on the inside and clean them up a little bit, and that works, then it would look better than what it does now. Because eventually fungi and stuff will get on the canes, and because the climate is so humid, I could make them look better, but I don't. The culm, the cane of a bamboo lasts 10 to 12 years usually. Look at this one back here. This is called Midori green, also called green Alphonse. And that one, the canes last about 10 to 12 years, and you can see that in the center there, we got some dead canes. And if I were ambitious, I would go and get them out. Well, there's a fire here. My burn pile got out of control. Oops. And there was a lot of debris and stuff there. And it looks relatively clean, but 4 or 5 months ago, it was deep mulch and leaves and debris and stuff. Anyway, it burned. And I was thinking, well, I'll just let it burn. Maybe it'll burn those canes out and I don't have to do any work, and then it'll kind of self-fertilize. Didn't do any of that, but the bamboo got really upset. Oops. Live and learn. But bamboo's coming back. A strong wind, like a hurricane, is actually slightly welcome, because these bigger bamboo, they get to be talkative because it's very woody and strong, and they bounce to the high, they drop on. And well, I hear that. I don't know if you can't hear it. I can hear it. They are getting talkative noise, and they make noise. And it's not a displeasing noise. It's kind of like crunch, crunch, old man Forrest is working there. Also, when the strong winds come, some of the old canes that are woody and broken up, they just kind of, they get pruned out by the wind. Wind pruning is what I call it. It's to be about 45 feet tall. It wants to arch a lot. I planted this 6 years ago, and it was about like this. It was minuscule, so I had to put a lot of mulch on it so I didn't mow it. I kind of cheated because I had about 200 pots of flowers here that were sold to somebody up in Georgia, and they were just, took them a couple months to get here. So I was watering the pots, and so just thought highly of it. This didn't look anything like that back then. It was just a little thing growing in the ground. And then I think the third surge of growth, I says, hey, it's got a knack. It started putting those stripes up, and it got thicker and taller, thicker, taller, thicker, and taller. And this is the adult characteristic. To show it to you. And when I'm doing my propagation work, the wool cutting, like I was telling you, I cut down all these canes, and I laid them down here. And this is Bambusa Yin Yang. There's probably another word connected with it, but this wants to be tall. It's going to have a bunch of vertical stripes, and then nothing, and then the next 2 nodes up, a bunch of vertical stripes. The stripes rotate 180 degrees every node. It's very attractive. I should have showed it back here, but anyway, this is my new fence. Now I put in this old fence, and I did a good job. What?
How many years ago?
Who knows, but it's been a while. And this is a tight clumper. That's a tight clumper. I'll show you up front an open clumper where a critter or cat would get through it. Why would they? But oh, people ask about snakes. Are there a lot of snakes here? No, not really. There's nothing in a bamboo for a snake. Critters go where there's something to eat or a place to stay, and a bamboo isn't. I mean, there's no reason a cat or a snake couldn't go there, but why would they? In my experience, they don't. About a year ago, and it was a tiny little guy, maybe about 3 feet tall, and this is, you think, what a bad idea. In the short run it was. In the long run, this is going to be about 55 feet tall. It's called Yin Yang. It's going to be about like this. It's going to be attractive, but it's going to shade that roof so the house will be cooler. The roof is pretty solid, but it won't get exposed to high winds because it can't get through this. This has a very erect growth habit. Here's another one, Asian lemon that has a very erect growth pattern. Sometimes you gotta have that. And up here, this was a unruly young plant, but now it's getting better. This is Barbaretta. Soil.
That is a beautiful plant.
And inside it looks really nice, and it's a good screen. Know that at some point I have to shape this. Normally this would be a bad plant, and as a younger plant, this is one came 6 years ago. It was, as 3 years ago, it was slapping against the side of the house and stuff, and I tied it up and threw it or yelled at it or something. Last year it was growing up into the socket. I had to saw it off. Can't let that happen, then we can get a house full of insects. And again, this is new growth on the perimeter. And a little bit of medical advice: do not take your arm and go here. See, this is called a sheath. It protects the little buds, the nose. And this has got a lot of little barbs on it. A number of years ago, my wife and I were down at some bamboo place, and there was some talk like this. And we asked in all ignorance, can we have some of that bamboo? And we were trying to, our hands are rubbing against our arms, and we were miserable. I mean, for 2-3 days, we had these barbs stuck in our arms. Then people would say, well, snakes are going there. No, they won't. You go in there once and you won't do that again. And I took power sanders and everything, and you just had to wait. It was miserable. I engaged in fear therapy. I mean, it's worse than the cactus. I mean, but you have to do exactly the wrong thing with them. This is Bambusa lacco, also called femur black, and this is the clumping black. If you were down in south where it doesn't earth by the coast, where it doesn't freeze, this at 28 Fahrenheit, this is frozen up. He'll come back, but you know, this one here, there's just some work on it. That one at 25, 24 Fahrenheit, that's not going to be happy. This is starting its 3rd year, I believe, or maybe its 4th year. This is glabra. This wants to be great, big, arching thing. Absolutely no care for me at all. Sorry. If you were to fertilize once a season, the bamboo would like it a lot better than if you did. They grow faster. The goal is to get your bamboo happy, and when you did what you wanted to do, then stop taking care of it. You certainly want the first 2-3 months to take care of it. And that would be basically watering it and giving it a good planting.
You said turf fertilizer?
That's what I would recommend. I mean,
It's a grass.
It's a grass, yeah. And you've got plenty of phosphorus in your soil, so it'd be nitrogen, no phosphorus, potash, and micros and slow release. And when you buy a fertilizer, you're paying for the nitrogen and the quality of the slow release coating. I mean, you pay a little bit for the other stuff, but that's where the charge comes in. And there are, the expensive fertilizers will cost you about $60 a big bag, and the low-cost ones will cost you about $30. The expensive ones are better. They're not worth the extra price, not even close. I pay about $33 a bag. I buy the truckload down at Selling a Chemical. Now that's a 17-410, and let's put it this way: if you bought a fertilizer that was 15 with a nitrogen number of 30, it's twice as much. That's how nitrogen works. And so you should pay twice as much because you're paying for nitrogen. At least that's the way I learned it. If there's a hard storm, lightning ionizes nitrogen out of the air, and we get a weak clean. And I let this dry in the sun for a month or 2. You do not want to let your bamboo go lay on the ground. Oops. There's a thing called pill bugs, and they're like aggressive termites. And we have created, I have bamboo walls in the house, headboards, and you name it. My wife, honey, you want to do this? Yes, dear. Well, I had pill bugs in the house. Oh, Lori, I was very upset. Well, cedar oil, which is not cheap, kills them. And so I painted cedar oil on the house, and the house smelled unusual for a while, but they were all gone. But if I hadn't laid it on the ground, I wouldn't have had that in the first place. So you let that store in the ground. Let's assume that this is the one. You want to get that waxy coating off, and if you lay it in the sun, up a little bit, eventually, in a month or two, it gets to the point where it's kind of porous. Then I put a sealer, and I put a stain on it, liquid sealer, and that was 6 years ago. Now this year, I just noticed there was a little fungi growing, and that's a thick enough cane wall that you can put a screw into it or nail it. You can do that with any bamboo, but it's easier to do it one with a very thick cane. Much easier.
We've learned so much. It's been a wonderful tour. Thank you.
Thank you.